Okay, so I just got done listening to this for a first impression, the Obsidians from Ikko. And even though their model number says OH10, and everybody keeps saying, get the OH10s, try the OH10s. And I'm thinking, what? It says that on the box. Why is everybody referring to things with model numbers? Why do people like model numbers? I like fun names. Come on. Obsidian. Why are we even doing like Sony WX1000X4? What, you know what I mean, that goofy name. Call it the fun names. Let's recommend Obsidian for now on and not OH10, okay? Can we all agree on that? I don't know why. Why is that a sticking point for me? Anyway, so I just got done listening to these. Tangent over. And I gotta say, I really, really, really enjoyed this. And I don't really go that overboard with saying something, but this is one of those that gave me a strong, likable first impression. Now, big disclaimer. My first impressions generally go down with my interest in time. I'm already starting to kind of hear what could be what makes this feel less enjoyable as I listen to it more for the next day or two. But it has wonderful bass. It has wonderful bass. A bass that blankets you. That's like, I'm trying to figure out specifically like mid bass, upper bass, sub bass, or how to describe it without looking at the graphs, just trying to guess what part of the bass is giving me this joy. And I can't help but escape this constant thought that I should just tell you in these abstract terms instead. These feel like a blanket of bass, a warm, cozy blanket. Honestly, that's how it makes me feel when the bass guitar plucks in my favorite jazz album of all time, the Esbjorn Svensson Trio's Live in Hamburg. Check links in the description for reference playlists. I'm actually working on one, a new reference playlist to play in my demos. That's going to have that jazz track. The cello is beautiful on these. Cello, stringed instruments, and an orchestra. Just the delicate negative space that surrounds piano keys and a trio band in between the people taking solo turns at their instruments, between the cello, the piano, and the drums, the light tap, tap, taps of drums. These do dynamic range, and they make that negative space as well just beautifully spacious to me, to my ears. Now, the ironic thing about my comment there is that there are tracks where it does the exact opposite, and it's just based on track. I found it to be exceptionally pleasing for jazz and classical, to the point that I would easily rank these in S for those bits. But then I notice, unfortunately, there are tracks, particularly busy metal and rock, where that warm blanket is a little suffocating, where it closes in on the space and there is no negative space or separation between things. It creates this very lively but blanketed, not bloomed. It's not like it's not like the details are blurred. It's that they are constantly competing with this soft punch of a comforting bass hit trying to get at you. It's somehow, I think there's a high treble response, and this is the kind of thing that is one of the reasons why this strong and good impression might go down in my overall rank over time. But the treble response can be, or what sounds to me like it's the treble response. And remember, I don't look at graphs until I'm done with the full reviews. And even then, I don't film myself talking about the graphs in hindsight of my review. I just give my review with my ears. What was I saying? The treble response in these seems, to my ear, like it's a bit shrill at times. Like I was listening to some electronic with a very wonderful bass energy that these provided, but that also had this, all of the digital and synthetic noises that come through in a lot of electronic music. Because I would argue that electronic music can often have as wide a dynamic range, not in terms of volume level. Classical is the most dynamic in terms of loudness and softness of any type of music that I've heard, and I love classical for that. But electronic has this dynamic range of tuning where it hits low, it hits high in the treble, it hits the mids, and it constantly has them. And because they're digitally synthesized, they can be more separated than anything because it's so artificial. They're not recorded in a live acoustic space where there's reverb and harmonics bouncing across the walls and blah blah blah. It can be purely created through the machine, and it creates a unnatural but very pleasing to me sound. I love electronic. I love how it's so distinctly separated between the instruments, and you hear all this detail. It just tickles the brain in a nice way. And I was looking forward to hearing that dynamic separation and tuning that I was hearing in my classical and jazz with these. I was hoping to hear it on the electronic, but when I heard the electronic, I didn't quite get that. In fact, it felt kind of overbearing and shrill, and with the treble end of it. And then the busy metal and rock also felt a little bit congested by all that. It's so weird. It's congested on some stuff and fatiguing with the treble and some stuff, but then classical and jazz, oh my gosh. The bass on this was in my favorite jazz album that I mentioned by that artist, Esbjorn Svensson Trio. It's sultry. That's how I could describe the bass. It's sultry. I tried popping in. Look at this. This impression's taking longer than I originally thought. And if anybody's waiting for the shootout of the budget stuff, that is coming in a demo recording against the ones I'm holding in my hand, but the name escapes me. Tin Hi-Fi T+. But when I opened these just for a quick impression, I had to make a video about them. So when I compared these, I went open to my case here, my top 4 at all times kind of comparison case. That's what this is. I always travel with this in case I want to pop something in my ear. This is how I can do reviews and build my impressions. I took out the Obsidian, not the OH10, Obsidian. I'm calling it Obsidian, guys. And I put in the T3 Plus. I put in, which is a cheaper, half the price. And I put in the Timeless, which is the same price, $200 range as the OH10. The Obsidian. And I tried the Unique Melody MEST, which is $1,300, $1,400 for the Mark I, which I have here. And I really preferred on that jazz album the sultry cello being plucked and played on the Obsidian. It was so deep and resonant, and the negative space around things was so pleasing to the ear. And I had to second guess myself. I went to another track on the same album, and I tried the same moment where I heard a lot of bass presence in that cello, and just trying to hear that same level of bass. I mean, I know I told people that the Tin Hi-Fi T3 Plus here is the bass head's favorite budget IEM. So I thought, go to this. Try to see if the bass is as sultry or as lush or big, whatever term you wanted to use. Was the bass as satisfying on that? Was it as large and soothing? And it wasn't. It was a cleaner bass, but it wasn't as voluminous? Volume? It wasn't as, it didn't have as much volume, okay? And the MEST was just lacking it. The Timeless had good bass, but it was, again, this like cleaner bass, much more detailed. Everything in it was more detailed, but it lacked that missing kind of ratio that I was looking for in the Obsidian. The Obsidian, I think this might actually be my favorite jazz performer. Price not even in consideration. Which is high praise, very high praise. I mean, that is my favorite jazz album of all time that I was talking about. And to say that this played my favorite album more than any other IEM, including my top favorites, these two are my top 2 right now of all of my headphones and earphones I've ever listened to, potentially. And that's how much I like this in the jazz. The only thing that might possibly beat it on that album was my longtime favorite, the HD 800S. As bright and lacking in bass as it is, it creates a beautiful negative space around things with its treble play. Okay, guys, I really don't want to take too long on this video any longer. I hope that was helpful so far. I pointed out how it could be fatiguing and congested, and yet beautifully open and dynamic, depending on the track and genre, so far out of box. But I want to quickly also just show you the accessories, in case anybody was wondering. If not, just close the video now, like and comment, subscribe. Yeah, and I hope you enjoyed the recommendation here so far. But on accessories, I've never seen this in my life. I've never seen a carrying case for any IEM be, how else do you describe this, but like a billfold. It feels like a thin wallet you'd keep in your pocket. Like I'd put bills in here. In fact, it kind of looks like it would be a good wallet, don't you think? Just fold up some bills and ID cards in there, credit card, maybe a credit card, if you really want like a really old school look feeling wallet. But that's where you put your earbuds. And I'm just like, okay. I mean, I dig it. I like leather goods. It's very interesting. It feels like it would be squished though. I don't know if I trust that in like sticky situations, but you could put that in your pocket and your pocket doesn't get sat on with much weight and everything. So maybe this would be, you get away with it. It feels precarious, but I do love it. I love the feel of it. And I just like leather in general. Cool. They also came with, oh gosh. Oh, I thought it was missing and this flap just fell down. Silly me. Get up there. Get up. Okay. And then here are the tips it comes with. I actually, with all of my good feedback or commentary rather on the OH10 Obsidian, I only tried one set of tips. And that's how successful. I didn't even need to go anywhere else because I was already enjoying them that much. Now, in my full review, when I talk about these and record them in a demo, which I promise you there will be a demo, I'm going to try in my own ears different tips. I'm going to see if I can reduce that treble fatigue a little bit, maybe with foam tips, but I'm worried that foam tips usually take away some beauty somewhere else in the tuning response. Maybe these other tips it came with that I haven't tried yet. We'll see. Okay, guys, that's all I have for you, just talking accessories and everything else. Please stay tuned for the full review. Other comparisons will be coming, but I'm just getting so many new products and I can't contain my excitement. Last thing I would say is there is a garage sale link always now in the description. I'm really actually short on funds to be able to buy new things. I'm really kind of living off of like the last orders I made a few weeks ago and what companies are lending to me. So if you're interested in any of the gear I've reviewed, check out the garage sale. You might want to get something in there. I'm going to actually reduce the prices even further to help just liquidate what I have. But I'll see you guys for the next full review. See ya.